Behind me is the highway that makes all of the noise in my videos, which I'm sorry about, and my dad's 1992 Mustang LX convertible. He bought this car for $300 with a blown motor, almost immediately swapped in a Ranger 2.3, and he's been driving it that way for the past 4 or 5 years. Now, he's had it painted, he's done the interior a little bit, but overall, it's pretty much stock, and it is easily the slowest car I've ever driven. It's actually the slowest car I've ever even ridden in, and I've ridden in a lot of very slow cars. Now, there may have been some issues with gearing or whatever, I don't know, and that doesn't really matter because in this series, we are going to be making this car fast, like legitimately fast. But we're not doing it the standard way where you put a 5-liter Ford in there and just send it to the moon. No, we are going to be turbocharging this car. And our original plan, like we did in the first episode, was to swap out an SVO motor from a turbo coupe, which we bought, and well, it was garbage. So we are going to be turbocharging, or trying to turbocharge this engine. We're going to be kind of throwing a bunch of parts together, hopefully coming out with an engine that can handle boost, and then trying to get this car running again. Now, you may be wondering where this build came from. If you did not see the first episode, I'll link it up here so that you can check that out. We did an episode of this a long time ago, and we were going to do a really quick kind of engine swap 2 or 3 week deal, and it turned into a massive full-on build. Now, the good news for you guys is the reason we waited so long is because I wanted to make sure this car was complete, and it is now. We still have some tuning to do, but overall, we've completed the hard parts of the car, all the stuff that you can't see right now. Now it's time to make it work and look pretty. I documented the whole thing. We ran into every single problem conceivable, and the outcome of this build, I'm not going to spoil everything for you, is completely different than what we started with. But we ended up with a very cool, very custom turbo Mustang, and this is how we did it. This is part 2 of our turbo Mustang build. Hope you guys enjoy it. So originally our plan was to use the turbo engine. That makes sense, right? We want to turbo this Mustang, pull the turbo engine out, put the turbo engine into the Mustang, and Bob's your uncle. But that turbo engine was garbage. So now we've got to pull out our regular engine. The goal for this build was to allow my dad to drive this car the whole time basically we're doing the work, except for the few days that it takes us to put the engine in. This goal changed dramatically when we found out that our turbo engine was bad, and so we decided to pull out this engine. Now, the engine that was in this car is actually from a Ford Ranger. It's not the original engine from this car. Before the channel, it was actually the same year the channel started. My dad bought this car for $300, and it had a blown motor, so he took a Ford 2.3 4-cylinder and put it in the car. It's one of the reasons the car is so slow. Getting the engine out of this car is actually kind of difficult. There's a lot of stuff in the way, and none of it makes a whole lot of sense. This is early ages of EFI, and there's a lot of vacuum, a lot of electrical, a lot of stuff to make this engine work. But we did eventually get it out and got it onto our stand so that we could basically do the exact same thing we did in the last episode and break down a Ford 2.3 Lima. Took us about a half a day plus this morning, and we've got it here on the stand. We're gonna break this thing all the way down now. Sorry, the camera's a little foggy. My camera got rained on last night because I don't really know. There's a lot of leaks in here, and I don't know where all of them are at yet, so I don't know the safe zones. But anyway, we're gonna break this thing down just like we did with the last one. Then that's gonna let us kind of get a look at this block and see if this is gonna be a good candidate to rebuild our turbo engine. The hope is that this thing is just good and we can just throw the forged pistons in and the turbo head and just send it to the moon. We'll see. But first we gotta break it down. It's interesting, neither of us had ever broken an engine all the way down last week, and here we are a week later and we'll have broken 2 all the way down. The question is, can we put them back together? Now, I wanna be clear here, we have never done this before, ever. The most mechanical work I've done to an engine is replacing a head gasket. So that's kind of the experience that both of us have going into this. And so this is daunting, but you've got to think about an engine for what it is, and that is an air pump. All it's doing is pumping air. So once you start getting your peripherals out, meaning the things that are getting the air in and getting the air out and causing spark and all that stuff, it really starts to look a lot more simple. You have your cylinders, your basic block, and your head. Break off those things and you're down to just your block, cylinders, and crankshaft. If you do want to learn about engines, breaking one down and putting it back together is easily the best way to learn and remember every single part that's going into these things to make them run. They're not that complicated, but there's a lot of parts and it's overwhelming until you break it down and see what's actually happening. Now, we did put all of our parts in bags, and we labeled those bags with a Sharpie, just little Ziplocs, and I cannot recommend this enough, and it actually saved us immensely throughout this project because we decided to do this. So we wanted to check these cylinders. So the first thing we're going to do is hone them out with a honing tool. We rented this one from O'Reilly's. It's just basically a stone sander that runs in a circle, and you can see it's cleaning the pistons up. We're lubricating it with gasoline. This is a tip I learned from Uncle Tony's Garage. I'm a huge fan of Uncle Tony's Garage, and that's the only reason I felt capable to even tackle this job in the first place. And we're taking this ring, putting it back in the engine. We're going to level it out with a piston and then shine light from the bottom just to make sure our pistons, or our cylinders rather, are still round. We want to make sure that we are going to get a seal from our ring because we're not going to be having this block professionally machined if we don't have to. That looks good, so I went ahead and finished cleaning up all of the gasket material off the head so it's ready to go back on when we get it, and it was time to move to our transmission swap. This car has an automatic transmission in it. It is awful, and we want to make it a little bit better. Well, we want to make it all the way better. So we're putting in a T5 World Class, which is the performance T5 from the late 80s, early 90s Mustangs. First, we got to get this big, heavy automatic transmission out, and then we can go through modifying our chassis just a little bit to make sure that the new transmission is going to fit. Okay, so we just got done. This is the dark part of the shop, by the way, so it's dark, but we just got done test fitting the transmission. Now, we put the thing under there, we sat up on jack stands and realized that it doesn't fit, and after some more research, we figured out why. The automatic and manual transmissions have a little bit of a different trans tunnel, and we've got a solution for that I'll show you guys in just a second. Another issue we had is the crossmember. Now, majority of these that I could find, the crossmember for the manual and the manual transmission and the automatic are the same, or you can make a modification to them for them to work out the same. But ours is not that way. For whatever reason, in this particular, I guess, chassis, this particular body, the transmission crossmember is just not, it's not easily modifiable to accept the manual. Now, we're going to modify it later down the road, but we don't want to do that yet because we want to make sure everything's going to work together, the drive shaft, the engine, everything. So what we'll do is go ahead and make our trans tunnel modification to get this thing ready to accept the manual. Okay, so come around here. Now, this is not a tutorial for how to do a manual swap. If you're looking for one, check out LMR's YouTube channel. They've got a step-by-step process, like a 3-video thing, and it is very good, and that's what I'm following. They sell this kit. Now, you don't have to use these evidently, but it's really nice to have, and at 75 bucks for this cool stamped sheet metal, I think it's worth it. This is gonna go in right here. You line up the back holes, and then you'll rivet that into place, or we may weld it. The only problem with welding, it's okay. He's gonna get you another one. Keep filming. The only problem with welding is we have sound deadening right here that we'll have to get through, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna weld it or if we'll just use the rivets that were provided with the kit. But the only modification it's gonna make us do is you'll see we've got this white line in here, and that has to be cut out because the manual transmission shifter actually sits a little bit further forward, and that's gonna allow us to put that in. This piece also allows us to use the factory inner boot for the transmission, which is really nice as well. So it'll look factory and be awesome. So we're gonna break out the angle grinder, we'll cut this hole, and then we're gonna install our new plate. Also, this is not sponsored by LMR. This is just a really great product, and they make really cool stuff for Fox bodies. So if you need something, chances are they have it.
Trust me? Yeah, is that in the middle?
Yeah. Just center it between the, no, maybe not between the screwdrivers. All right, you ready?
Yep.
That do it? All right, Pop. Steering assembly. Don't need that anymore. Now that we're going to hand controls.
Gonna plug an Xbox controller into it.
Yeah. We're disassembling the transmission. That was difficult. So we've got our pan in. We haven't riveted it in because our rivet gun doesn't have a big enough kind of adapter for that size rivet, the 1/4 inch rivet. So we'll have to get one of those. No big deal. Probably gonna trim that out a little bit more because the hole is just not quite big enough there. Steering column is out, which you have to do to get the pedal assembly out. The pedal assembly in this thing is miserable. It's like tied into all kinds of unnecessary stuff, which I just don't understand. So we've got to source a pedal assembly still, which I think we found one on eBay, so we're gonna order that. What else we got to do today, Dad?
That's it today.
That's probably gonna be the end of this video. So I was really hopeful to get something done in this video that was like, exciting, complete. I really wanted to like get the transmission mounted or get the engine rebuilt. But so I went to pick up the crank and the head from the machine shop. We dropped it off 2 weeks ago, and it was still in the same spot that I left it. So I asked the guy if we were close, and he said, no, you're way down the list. And I was like, okay, cool. So I picked it up. I took it to Iron City. What is it called? I took it to Iron City Machine. It's a buddy of ours named Myron that works there, and he's gonna take care of it for me. He said it'd take 2 to 3 days. So they've got it now, so we couldn't get the engine built in this one, which is kind of a bummer, but we did get the second one torn down, so that's cool. So in the next video, even though we're kind of finishing this video with everything torn apart, in the next video we're gonna be rebuilding the engine for sure, putting it all back together. And if that goes smoothly, I don't know if it will, we'll get back into the transmission as well. We have to source a set of pedals, and we have to source, I guess, just a set of pedals. Yeah, we'll get the pedals in, and we can start putting everything else together for the transmission, and we'll be good to go. So engine will be rebuilt, then we can put everything back together, engine and trans, and then we'll put that back into the car and start connecting things, and then from there it's just wiring everything up and getting it all to work together and be happy. So moving right along. Oh, some of you guys have been wondering where Chase has been. He's here. We're still friends. We still hang out at least once a week, if not more. And you'll be in videos a good bit in a few months. Yeah, we got some news for you guys, so that's pretty exciting. But for the Datsun, which we'll talk about this in the next Datsun video too, but Chase, I'm giving the Datsun to Chase. When we get done with it, we talked about giving it away. So we're gonna be giving it to Chase, because it's like his baby, it's like his brainchild.
It's all of my teenage mini trucking dreams.
Yeah.
And we just built it with our own 4 hands.
Yeah, 4 hands and 4 eyes. Sometimes 8 eyes, depending if we have our glasses on. And so it's gonna be going to him. We were gonna give it away originally to just somebody from the channel, but there's been so much modification that may or may not be safe, and we just didn't feel comfortable with that, but we do want to give it away, so we're gonna give it to Chase. He's not allowed to see it. You'll see the Dachshund's got a cover on it right now, and he has been banned from the YouTube channel, and he has been banned from my Instagram, and banned from everything else where I'm posting pictures and videos of the truck, and he is not to look at it until the wide body is done. So when I finish the wide body and get it all black again, then we'll bring him over and show him that on the channel. It'll be really fun to do. All right, I think that's all our news. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you're enjoying this build. It's definitely more torn apart than I thought it was gonna be at the end of this video, but we can only go up from here. Yep. Wish us luck. That's all I got. See ya.